Welcome everybody to another video of Ancient Greece Reloaded. Today we will talk about the most famous musician in Greek mythology, Orpheus. By the way, if you like the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so as to stay tuned for upcoming videos. Overall, Orpheus was arguably the most famous musician spoken of in the tales of Greek mythology. Orpheus was famed for having traveled on board the Argo, as well as having descended into and ascended out of the Underworld. Generally, it is said that Orpheus was a son of Oeagrus, a king of Thrace, born to the famous muse Calliope, although Pindar and a couple of others suggest that Orpheus was actually a son of the god Apollo. Although not agreed upon, potentially Linus was the brother of Orpheus. King Oeagrus was said to have married Calliope at Pimblia, a city of Pieria, near Mount Olympus, and it was said that there was also Orpheus' birthplace. Orpheus, though, would be raised by his mother and the other muses upon Mount Parnassus. Orpheus had inborn musical abilities, also considering the fact that Oeagrus was regarded as a skilled musician, and of course if Apollo was Orpheus' father. Well, Apollo was the Greek god of music. Apollo was said to have presented Orpheus with a golden lyre at some point when the god visited the muses upon Mount Parnassus, and also the god personally taught him how to play it. At the same time, Calliope taught the young Orpheus how to make verses for singing. Orpheus was soon said to have outstripped even Apollo's skill upon the lyre, and his music could animate the inanimate, whilst men and animals would be entranced by it. In other words, Orpheus had the ability to even charm all living things and even stones with his music. Orpheus would initially become famous for his role in the quest for the Golden Fleece. It was said that the wise centaur Chiron advised Jason that he needed to make Orpheus one of the Argonauts, or else the quest was doomed to fail. Orpheus' important role would come to the fore when the Argo attempted to travel around the island of the Sirens. The rocks around the island were a graveyard for ships, for the beautiful songs of the Sirens would bewitch them and would cause sailors to wreck their vessels upon the rocky outcrops. As the Argo approached the island of the Sirens, Orpheus took out his lyre and played music which was even more beautiful than the song of the Sirens. As a result, the voices of the sirens were drowned out, and the Argonauts managed to row beyond the island without becoming bewitched. Later on, Orpheus would become even more famous for his descent into the underworld. Orpheus had married a beautiful maiden called Eurydice, and in some accounts, this marriage was said to have produced a son called Musaeus. Some tell of Eurydice dying on her wedding day, for as she walked through long grass, a snake bit her on the ankle and the poison killed her. In short, there are variations of the reasons that led to Eurydice's death, but in the end, she would step on a venomous snake, get bitten and die. Orpheus would mourn the death of Eurydice greatly, and the songs composed and performed by Orpheus were so sad that even gods were said to have wept. Then some naiad nymphs advised Orpheus to travel to the underworld. Perhaps he could convince Hades to return Eurydice to the land of the living. Following their advice, Orpheus found an entrance or a gateway and descended to the underworld. Gaining an audience with Hades and Persephone, Orpheus played his lyre, and the music was said to have brought the darkest spirits of the underworld to tears. Persephone would persuade Hades to allow Eurydice to return with Orpheus. Hades agreed on the condition that Eurydice would follow Orpheus, but that Orpheus was not to look upon his wife until they were both in the upper world, aka the world of the living. Thus, Orpheus left the underworld with Eurydice following behind, but upon reaching the upper world, Orpheus looked back towards his wife. Eurydice herself had not reached the upper world yet, and so Eurydice vanished, returning to the realm of Hades. Orpheus would thereafter wander the earth playing sad songs. However, Orpheus' death was soon to come. The location of Orpheus' death, the manner and reason of his death thus vary depending on the source. Most commonly, Orpheus was said to have died upon Mount Pangaion in Thrace, where female Ciconians were said to have torn Orpheus limb from limb. Cicones was a tribe in Thrace. These women were generally said to be Maenads, followers of Dionysus, who were angered as Orpheus had spurned the worship of Dionysus in favor of Apollo. These Maenads were forced to use their own hands, for when they tried to throw rocks at Orpheus or to use tree branches, both rocks and branches refused to touch Orpheus because of his beautiful music. Alternatively, some say that Orpheus did not meet his end at the hands of women, but was instead struck down by one of Zeus' thunderbolts, for the Orphic mysteries that Orpheus had initiated had revealed too much to mankind. An alternative location for the death of Orpheus was said to have been near the city of Dion in Pieria, for a local custom held suggested that the river Helicon had sunk beneath the earth's surface when the women who had killed Orpheus attempted to wash his blood from the hands. Finally, Orpheus' Lyre was carried to heaven by the Muses and was placed amongst the stars. The Muses also gathered up the fragments of his body and buried them at Livithra, below Mount Olympus, where the nightingales sang over his grave. After the river Sis flooded Livithra, the Macedonians took his bones to Dion. Orpheus' soul returned to the Underworld, to the fields of the blessed, where he was reunited at last with his beloved Eurydice. Let us finish with the following saying: "The measure of life is its beauty, not its length." Plutarch. That being said, remember guys to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel, it would help us a lot. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for upcoming videos.